this fine eve. Yeah, that's what we're gonna have as we have a chat. So let's get it open. So I considered putting this in a glass with ice, but I think I'm just gonna have it as it is. Oh, my nose is very itchy. So I was meant to be running a game right now, but it fell through. So we're doing a video instead. So as I said, strawberry and lime copperberg. Let's give it a sip. Lovely. I love me a strawberry and lime copperberg. So it's only a small can. Not sure how much we'll get into the video. So yeah, I want to talk about SpyxFamily. So if you are not into anime, then you probably won't give a shit about what I'm saying. But maybe you're going to stick around for the sounds regardless, the whispering and the sipping. I recently finished SpyxFamily, and there is a movie out, but I've not seen it. Maybe I'll try and find it somewhere, because I haven't checked, but I very much doubt by now it would still be in the cinema. But I knew that it existed, because I originally had started watching it when that movie came out, yeah, I could have gone to see it, but I just wasn't watching it regularly enough, and I thought, well, I want to watch it before seeing the movie, you know, which I'm glad I have done, you know, given the context of some stuff that comes up. So I'm going to try and keep it as spoiler free as possible, but at the same time there's a few things, I mean, the premise is going to be a spoiler enough, but like that's like the blurb, it's like reading the blurb on the book, right? It's like knowing that in Lord of the Rings the plot is to take the ring to the Mordor. Like, it's a spoiler, it's something that doesn't happen until like, I don't know, halfway through the movie. But other than that, it's not a spoiler, right? That's kind of the whole premise of the movie. So, the point being that I'm trying to make here is that I'm going to try and make it less spoiler-free, less spoilery. So where to start? Well, the premise of the whole show is, as you can maybe ascertain by the title, SpyxFamily. Actually, it's a little bit misleading, but the show is all about a family who aren't really family, in the sense that it's basically like found family. So there are three main characters, at least at the start of the series. I've forgotten their names, other than I don't remember the other two characters' names, if I'm honest, other than his like code name. But there are three main characters, and each of them have like some kind of like secret that keeps them like from basically being like normal people in a sense. So first of all, we've got the main, like what you might consider to be the main character. The story starts with him and the whole thing comes together because of him, and most of season 1 focuses on him, and he is a spy named Twilight. That's his code name. I can't remember his actual name, but I think technically part of it is Lloyd Forger is the name he goes by in the show, as like his like pseudonym, his fake name. His original name is like Lost to Time, I guess. Anyway, he goes by Lloyd Forger, and basically he has this plan. As a spy, he has to infiltrate an enemy country, and in order to do so, he needs to do a plan called Operation Styx, I think it's called, and basically the whole operation is to get in contact with this one dude that's like high up in the government, and in order to do that, he needs to get a child in at the school that can either become like really well educated in there, become like an imperial scholar, and then they can like tour suspicion, he needs a wife to make sure that it looks like a very casual family, as to not like, you know, draw any attention as like a single parent, etc. So he goes and adopts a daughter, and it turns out that the daughter has her own secret. She can read minds. She's a telepath. She can read people's thoughts, and so she immediately discovers that he is a spy, and she doesn't really care. She thinks it's kind of cool, and afterwards, like a few episodes in, they meet the wife, and the wife turns out she has a secret as well. She is an assassin. She kills people for a living, and she is a single woman, and she's realising that people are getting suspicious of her, and so somehow they both end up at like a shop, and like there's a conversation that starts, and in short they both come together and they decide to get married, as if they've already been married. Now both of them don't know that the other person is a spy / assassin. They only think that the other person is like a normal person, and the reason that the marriage goes this way is because Lloyd says to her, like, I need someone to pretend to be Anya is the name of the girl, the daughter. I need someone to pretend to be her mother because her mother died when she was young, and I want the school to accept her. And so she agrees to that, and then subsequently they decide to just get married to kind of pose as a normal family. But whilst they know that that's the case, they don't know that the other person is like some kind of like he doesn't know she's an assassin, she doesn't know that he's a spy, but Anya, the telepath, knows that both those things, doesn't say anything because she doesn't want the other person to find out, and then like give her back to the orphanage. So she keeps her mouth shut, but like part of the hilarious part of the whole show is that she can read the mind. So like he'll be like saying this really encouraging thing to her, and then it'll be like, man, she's like really dumb, and the girl's like, It is very funny. It's a great show. It really is. It's a lot of fun. It's obviously designed as like a comedy, and most of the first season, as I said, focuses on him and doesn't really touch on her like assassin life, which I was a little bit like, that sounds a little bit like, sideline the female character, and show us nothing. But season 2, like, there was a whole character arc regarding her, and I think that was very good, and I was glad to finally see her be the one that in like the limelight with her job, and him taking more of a backseat as like the normal parent. And it's really interesting the way it all interposes, because they don't know what the other is doing, and she thinks he's like a therapist and stuff, and he thinks she's just like working at this retail store, which is just a front. And it's very, very interesting, and very fun to watch. And honestly, like, that itself is kind of a funny concept, but adding in Anya, the daughter, who can read their minds, makes it even better, because she knows that he adopted her to do this spy operation, so she's trying her best to be like the best student, but she's not that smart, and so like she keeps failing, but like she also knows she has to try and be friends with this kid, even though he's never said this to her. She like knows everything that's going on. And then later in the season, there's a dog that's brought into the mix, and I don't want to give too many spoilers about that because it is later in, but it's a lot of fun. Like, if you like that premise, you're going to really enjoy the show, and I don't think any of that stuff really spoils the context of the show, or like makes it like not fun to watch. Like, you're not really watching it for like the storyline per se, in the sense that it's not like there's big reveals like you might find in something like Attack on Titan. So yeah, nothing to worry about there, but you should definitely check it out. If you do like anime, you should check it out. If you don't like anime, it might be one to watch. It's not as bad. Like, anime gets a lot of like shit for being weird, and this one's not really like that. It doesn't have any weird stuff. There's like maybe 1 or 2 bits where it's like, okay, but it's never like played on that deeply. And again, I don't want to say anything because of spoilers, but it's not like it's not like it's not weird. It's just one of those things. It's like, oh, it's a bit cringe, but like it's not that bad. In all honesty. So yeah, highly recommend you go check it out. I really love it. Season 2 is definitely an improvement. And I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with the next, and I'm going to watch the movie at some point. The only thing I'll say is that sometimes it doesn't always know the genre that it wants to be. Like, it is very clearly from the beginning a comedy. You know, it's full of jokes, it's full of like goofs and gaffs. But especially when it comes to like the assassin stuff, like suddenly it'll be like kind of gory, you know, like it'll go from the spy like knocking someone out, and there's not really any blood, there's not really any like gore, not in the sense like some other animes with like guts spitting everywhere, but then you come to the assassin stuff and she's like shoving things through people's head, people are getting shot and dying, and it's like, oh, right. It is a bit jarring when that stuff happens. Doesn't make the series bad, but it does mean that sometimes it kind of shifts genre a little bit. Yeah, it doesn't always land, I'll say, but I still think it's very good, and the comedy is top tier. Again, like, it's the telepath element that really brings it all together, because the original concept, okay, that's interesting, but there's a sort of trope that happens where it's like, oh, they almost find out. Not, this isn't in the show, this is just like a general trope when you have two characters that have no secrets, that they don't know of the other person, and it can get a bit tired, you know, the sort of like will they, won't they, but rather than a luck thing, it's more of a will they, won't they find out. But because Anya the kid knows both sides, she's posited as like the audience, and it's a lot of fun. Like, that really adds this whole new element in there. Sorry, I just hit the microphone there. Oh, shifting my seat. Yeah, it changes the whole thing, and makes it feel like you're in her position, and that's a lot of fun. I like that. The series aren't. The 2 seasons aren't that long. I'm pretty sure it's 2 seasons. At least that's how it is on Crunchyroll. 2 seasons aren't that long. One of them, I think, is like 25 episodes. The first season's 25. The second one's about half that. So, you know, it's easy watching. 20-minute like episodes, as you might expect. It's not a long show. So easy to digest, and it doesn't require a lot of focus. You know, if you're watching something like Jujutsu Kaisen or I don't know, I'm trying to think of one, like Attack on Titan or Death Note, you have to really pay attention to those shows, because if you don't, you start to lose what's going on. Whereas with this, you can sort of just like watch it and have it on in the background. You don't really have to deep it too much. That doesn't mean you shouldn't pay attention to it. It just means like it doesn't require you to be observing at all times in order to reward you, because a lot of those shows have details, especially stuff like Death Note, right, that have details that you need to be focusing on. If you miss a story beat, you're kind of fucked. Whereas with this, you can jump into an episode and more or less each of them's their own sort of episode. It's very episodic in that regard. I think that's the right term, right? Episodic or serialized. I don't remember which one's which now. But in the sense, like, each is an individual story that doesn't really connect to the next one. There are a few things where there's like episode arcs, so there might be something where 4 episodes might be like to be continued, those sorts of things, like parts, you know, arcs divided into parts, and that very much does exist, but yeah, that other than that, like, it's very sort of singular episodes, So you should go check it out if you haven't already. I certainly enjoyed it. The music's pretty cool. It's very jazz. Like, it is obviously heavily inspired by like those sort of spy thrillers, and the music fits. It feels like it jumps between different genres because of that, but it does like the jazz. And if you're a fan of that sort of music, you'll probably enjoy it. You should definitely go check it out for that reason. If no other reason, of course. But I would say, generally, is it family friendly? I wouldn't say it's necessarily family friendly, but it's definitely not dark. And the reason I'm hesitating there is because of the assassin stuff, and particularly in season 2, there's an arc, as I said, with her as the assassin, and there is like blood and death, but like it's played up very like comically, almost like it almost feels a bit jarring when you like deep it, I guess, because this murdering is played up as like kind of like casual. It's very casualized violence rather than even like fighting. Anime is like Jiu-Jitsu or One Punch Man, etc. All of them are very, they take the violence very seriously regardless. Even if it's a spectacle, it's not treated for a laugh, really. I guess One Punch Man maybe, but like even then, like the human deaths are deep, and used for powerful moments, but there's like, I can't spoil things, I don't want to spoil things, but there's like a few moments in particularly one episode near the end of the season where it's like, oh, right, okay, sure. And you know, it can be a little bit jarring, especially within the genre that you're watching, because of how the show is beforehand, because it's very, very light-hearted, and that's what I mean by it not necessarily 100% knowing what it wants to be at all times. Like sometimes it dips into other, I don't necessarily mean genres even, I guess, but it has very different tones, and sometimes they don't feel very well weaved in, or it's very strange the way it tones something that I don't know. That's really all I could say on that, I guess. We're nearly done with this drink, so I hope you enjoyed that little reviewy ramble of SpyxFamily. So you can find it on Netflix. I think only the first season is on Netflix, and then the second season is on Crunchyroll. Both seasons are on Crunchyroll, but like I'm pretty sure I watched the first season on Netflix. I could be wrong. Yeah, but they're very, very good. So you should definitely check them out. Definitely do that. Consider doing that. What else can I say about it before we end? It's definitely not like the most visually impressive anime of all time, but then it doesn't need to be, right? It doesn't need, Jiu-Jitsu's quality of animation, because it's not what it's designed for. It's very bog standard visually, like it's very, very simple, and about as general as you can get, or as generic as you can get with animation style. Like even something like Mob Psycho has very simple designs outside of it, especially outside of its like combat sequences, but like generally Mob Psycho has a very simple, almost web comic design, and but it's a style, it's a style, whereas this, I don't think it really has what I would call a style beyond it being sort of generic anime, kind of cutesy anime style, if that makes sense. It's very soft, very simple, but whilst it isn't visually the most impressive, it certainly makes up for it in it's storytelling, and the narrative is fun. It's a really easy watch. It's soft. It's more like a comfort show, is what I would say. It's not particularly dark, even though it has darker shades here and there. It's a simple, heartfelt show that if you want to watch something light-hearted and kind of heartwarming, then you should go check it out. And that's my final statement. And so as we finish off this drink,